Is Jacob Zuma going back to jail? South Africa's Supreme Court of Appeals ruled that former President Jacob Zuma's release from jail on medical parole was unlawful, ordering him to return to prison to complete his sentence. In July 2021, Zuma was sentenced to 15 months in jail for contempt of court, after refusing to testify before a judicial commission investigating corruption during his nearly decade-long presidency. He was released from the Estcourt Correctional Center on medical parole after just 2 months to serve out his sentence under house arrest. His release on medical parole by Arthur Fraser became the point of contestation, which the Supreme Court of Appeal has found to be unlawful. A court rescinded the parole in December and ordered him back to prison. Zuma, who is 80 years old, appealed the ruling. The Supreme Court of Appeals announced its judgment on Monday, November 21, 2022. The Supreme Court of Appeals said he was illegally granted parole by Arthur Fraser, the then head of South Africa's Department of Correctional Services, who made the decision against the advice of the Medical Parole Advisory Board. Arthur was slammed by the Supreme Court of Appeal for using the July 2021 unrest as a justification for his decision, calling it unconstitutional and irrational. The Helen Suzman Foundation says the fact that Arthur Fraser only overrode one of the 100 negative recommendations the Medical Parole Advisory Board gave during his tenure can only mean that Mr. Fraser knew full well that he was acting unlawfully by treating Mr. Zuma as an exception and for reasons that had little to do with his medical treatment. The Democratic Alliance said that the fact of the matter is that this was special treatment to get Mr. Zuma out of jail and that Zuma's release was cadre deployment at work. The DA was one of the 3 petitioners that approached the SCA for a review of Zuma's medical parole. Zuma's legal team advocated that given the fact that he had spent the remainder of his sentence under house arrest, his sentence was technically over since October 2022. The court also rejected the department's claim that Zuma's sentence ended this October while the appeal was being heard and that such pronouncement was premature, given that the determination of the very issue was still pending before this court. The Supreme Court of Appeal ordered that Mr. Zuma return to the Estcourt Correctional Center to serve out his sentence. The DA hailed Monday's judgment as a victory for the party, on behalf of the people of South Africa, and won Zuma in orange overalls again by no later than 5 p.m. on Friday afternoon. Swanili Mani, a spokesperson for the Jacob Zuma Foundation, dismissed the ruling, arguing that the ex-president has served his entire 15-month sentence. The eThekwini branch of the ANC was unequivocal it does not want to see former President Jacob Zuma back behind bars. The judgment said Zuma had not finished serving his sentence, but it would be up to the Department of Correctional Services Commissioner to decide if the former president's medical parole would count as time served. In a statement, the party's shadow minister for correctional services, Jono Engelbrecht, said that the matter was about ensuring that the democratic principles of equality before the law and accountability were upheld. In the meantime, though, the Department of Correctional Services on Tuesday indicated that they were still considering whether to appeal the SCA's ruling, which could throw a spanner in the works. If they were to lodge an appeal, that would automatically suspend the operation of the order handed down on Monday. Follow, subscribe, like, comment, share.